I've never really been the biggest Spider-Man fan. I haven't really been the biggest Insomniac fan for that matter. I don't think it's so much that I think Spider-Man is a bad character or, Insomniac makes bad games. With the exception of the old animated Spider-Man series on Fox and a couple of the Spider-Man movies, I haven't had a lot of interest in Spider-Man in general. When Spider-Man 2018 was announced, I thought it looked really good, but I wasn't terribly impressed with what I saw. You fast forward to the halfway point here in 2021, and my mind has completely changed on not only Spider-Man the character, but Insomniac the developer and what they're capable of. And before I say anything more, if you enjoy this review and my other reviews, throw me a like and subscribe. Hell, you know what? Share this video while you're at it. I do appreciate it. 2018 was no doubt a huge year for games, another huge year for games. It was one of the most competitive years in gaming that I think I've ever seen. All in the same year. Gamers were spoiled by God of War, Monster Hunter World, Celeste, Forza Horizon 4, Far Cry 5, A Way Out, Red Dead Redemption 2, and of course, Spider-Man, just to name a few. Some of these games were hyped to hell and back, and a few of them actually lived up to that hype for longtime fans. Did Spider-Man 2018 live up to that hype? Let's dig in. I always thought this game looked good in the trailers here on YouTube or watching others play a segment or two on Twitch. I never thought I would tell you that this game is right there in the same conversation with my favorite PS4 exclusive, God of War. I know some of you may be thinking, man, you think this game looks better than The Last of Us 2 or Uncharted 4? And the answer to that question, at least for me, is yes, I do. If you watch this channel often, you know that damn good looking open world games will a lot of times impress me a lot more than the linear stuff. I knew Insomniac was good, but I didn't think they were this good. Sony first-party studios are some of the best when it comes to getting the most out of PlayStation, as they should be. It makes all the sense in the world why they would. They have all the keys and any secrets that Sony may have kept to themselves in their back pocket. And when you can bounce ideas off of other extremely talented studios like Sucker Punch, Guerrilla Games, Naughty Dog, and Sony Santa Monica, you're gonna have games that look absolutely incredible. Spider-Man is no different. This game completely blew me away, and I think it's made even more impressive by the fact that it's an open world title. Insomniac went all out here and they wanted to show that they were just as capable as some of the best in the industry. I played Sunset Overdrive and I was pretty blown away by that. I really love the art style in that game, and while you have completely different art style choices in two very different games, Insomniac, they flexed hard with Spider-Man. It's absolutely insane at times. Even when you're not in photo mode, the crazy detail on some of the spider suits themselves is really something to see. Now listen, I don't live in New York, but based on a lot of the things that I've seen, in a documentary, films I've watched, and of course the games I've played, really show that while this isn't a true one-to-one world with real-life New York, a lot of care was taken when making this game. Some real developer passion, because this game is gorgeous. Character models and cutscenes are especially good. Even when you're not in cutscenes, they're still really good. And while Peter or, the spider suits seem to have received the most attention and steal the show, the villains in the game are still damn close to being just as impressive. Day or night, I think this is my favorite lighting in any Sony exclusive. It's hard to pick just one, because on the right TV, especially if you have one of the better OLEDs available, the lighting in this game is going to blow you away the same way that it did me. I took an insane amount of pictures. I couldn't help myself because this game, it features one of the best photo modes, so I said, why the hell not? Fire. Let's talk about fire and just some of the overall particle effects in general. They're special here. I've said, that the Tomb Raider games and the Uncharted games, Alien Isolation, all of them have some of the best fire effects in all of video games. Add Spider-Man to that list because it looks great here too. Just particle effects in general. You won't spend a lot of time doing much inside them from a gameplay standpoint because a lot of them are used to set up story beats, but a lot of the interior areas look phenomenal in this game as well. I have no complaints. Ocean water, yeah, I love water in games. It's always been one of my favorite things to talk about in these reviews, but you won't spend a lot of time swimming or on a boat either. From a distance, it looks awesome. And Puddlegate, well, anyway, moving on from that stupidity. Spider-Man looks good. No denying it. Insomniac should pat themselves on the back. I know that the new Ratchet & Clank is right around the corner, depending on when you watch this review, but as of right now, I'm still very impressed with this, and considering how Sony likes to make a lot of their modern games, I feel like they got a complete steal of a deal buying this developer at the price that they purchased them for.
Not getting much coverage. Sammy. I'll get him
Totally
for
didn't
you.
see that coming.
Got a corner. People don't mess with the Kingpin and live. I will be beating us.
I walked into this game thinking the gameplay would be the Batman Arkham games with Spider-Man in it, and for the most part, I think that's what I got. I'll tell you right now, though, that's not a knock on this game at all, because those Batman games are so good. It's a huge compliment. There is no doubt of any kind Insomniac looked at those games, as well as some other games, I'm sure, as a big part of their influence when developing Spider-Man. One of the bigger differences here is that Spider-Man, of course, has actual superpowers and is far more agile and just far more capable in general. If you can master this combat system, especially with some of the stealth abilities, I'd say it'd be pretty impressive to watch. It's important to remember that because of his agility and because of his actual superpowers, it is possible to go into any enemy encounter and never be touched. I got lucky a few times and took on more than a handful of enemies without taking any damage. Now, was it possible for me to continue this and have consistency throughout every battle? Of course not. I didn't master the system. I'm just very impressed with it. The way you can just launch one enemy into the air and then kick him around a bit, maybe punch him around a little bit, use a swing kick to finish him off, or just to get that guy out of your way so you can focus on some of the other enemies. You notice that one enemy is about to empty his clip on you from a distance, swing back in that direction, and choose to dispose of them how you will. There's just a lot of combat options here. Most situations will allow you to approach a group of enemies without being seen for an extended period. It's completely up to the player if they want to go in and make your presence felt immediately or plan the attack with some of the awesome gadgets and stealth mechanics. As per usual, I always find that I play games like this with a combination of both. Sometimes it can be a challenge because Insomniac decided that there would be enemies that look like they've been juicing, and juicing well. Those guys need slightly more careful planning and for you to consider some of the more effective gadgets. The use of objects in the environments is a really nice touch too. I didn't use them as often as I probably should have because I was too focused on trying not to get hit or what enemy I wanted to take out next, but these objects are really helpful. You can throw anything from a manhole cover to garbage cans or even pull off car doors and use those. These are useful for some extra damage or to buy you a bit of time as a distraction before attacking another enemy. Snipers, yeah, snipers are a problem and they'll continue to be a problem if you don't try to eliminate them before each combat encounter. If the game gives you the option to take out the snipers first, you're going to want to do that. You take a lot of damage from their shots, and I died a few times thinking, they're not going to be able to touch me. I'm Spider-Man, and as long as I keep moving and swinging around the combat area, I should be good. Well, I was wrong. Speaking of the swinging, I haven't played a ton of Spider-Man games in the past, but this has to be one of the best, if not the best, in terms of fun with the swinging. Insomniac knew they had to get this part of the game right and streamlined it in a way that makes it damn near perfect. If you make a mistake and think you're going to go face first into a building or something, Insomniac has you covered, and you can just begin to run to the top by holding one of the triggers. Hitting the corner of a building will actually result in some very well done animations where Spider-Man pulls himself around for a quick adjustment. Also included is the ability to build momentum and move through the city a lot faster by simply releasing the button at the top of your jump. Now later in the game, Spider-Man can show off a bit and is capable of a small number of moves like, say, a somersault to help you swing a lot faster. It's just a really fluid system, and I can't see Insomniac changing this for the sequel, nor should they. There are fast travel locations, and that's cool if you're simply doing some trophy hunting. I think for me, I'd feel like I was slapping Insomniac in the face by not swinging through this amazing city that they spent so much time and passion on, and on top of that, it's just one of the most fun things to do from a gameplay standpoint anyway. Stealth sections and collectibles. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have these. There's no two ways about it. Things like old backpacks full of cameras and other things that bring back memories for Peter are hidden all over the city. You'll find and unlock these by getting towers up and running properly. And let me say, I do prefer the hacking in this game to the Batman Arkham titles. I know someone's going to come to this review and say, man, yeah, but what about those forced stealth sections in the game? There are a handful of forced stealth sections. I'm not denying that some people will and have found stuff like this super annoying, and I understand that. I find a lot of things in games annoying as well. Since I like stealth in some games, and given how crafty Spider-Man is when using his webbing abilities and crawling in and out of the most impossible vents, I might add, I really don't mind it. But you aren't just Spider-Man during some of these forced stealth sections. That's going to be, a positive or a negative depending on who you are. But you'll have moments in the game where you're playing as Mary Jane or you're playing as Miles. Now, call me crazy, but most of the time, I didn't mind this. I also didn't mind some of the slow walking sections where you're playing as Peter either. Most of these are pretty short-lived and they break up the gameplay of, just constantly swinging throughout the city or, beating up bad guys and getting on top of cars and chasing those down. In my opinion, it helps, it's good pacing, and I never felt bored because of it. Let's talk about the side missions a bit. The game didn't completely fall apart for me during the side missions. I just didn't care for them very much. There are a few good ones, but I do think the side missions are definitely the weakest part of the game. Most of these they're not fun, and they are the very definition of filler. Hey, there's this last known photo of my friend. Please, Spider-Man, help me find him. I think he may be in trouble. So, it's just stuff like that. It's a little lame. It's pretty standard friendly neighborhood Spider-Man type of stuff with the side missions, but these just weren't very fun whatsoever. I'm sure Insomniac likely threw them in there as some sort of filler and wanted to do more. I believe they wanted to do more with them and probably couldn't. I think it goes without saying, given the talent at Insomniac, this kind of stuff will be much better in the sequel. Boss battles, yeah, this is something you have to get right in a game like Spider-Man, just superhero games in general. Like many of you, this was something I was looking forward to, and I mostly came away pretty satisfied. The battles with Martin Lee and Tombstone are probably my favorite. Not sure if it was them just feeling a little more gameplay involved and the visuals during some of those battles, but I was very impressed. The early fight with Fisk is really good too, but it's just like the tutorial area, and unfortunately, some of the optional activities in the game are stuff like research puzzles and taking pictures of popular landmarks. I had more fun taking pictures of some of the known landmarks than I did a lot of the research stuff. Along with swinging through this amazing city, you can actually walk the streets of New York as Spider-Man, and civilians will say all sorts of interesting things. Is that really Spider-Man? Spider-Man, can I get a picture? The city doesn't feel as lived in or as alive as some other open world games, but it's still a massive achievement regardless. The progression system in this game is pretty typical. The more things you accomplish and find as Spider-Man, the more abilities will unlock. I'd say it's worth it to do some of the speed challenges and some of the combat challenges because a lot of those unlocks are very helpful. New gadget unlocks, early game abilities that become more capable and a lot more powerful. For me, it was worth it. And when it was all said and done, I unlocked most of what was available. As for some of the other unlocks that you get, there's a really nice selection of Spidey suits to choose from. I was really happy about this, but the default outfit is easily one of my favorites. I know I can't be alone in that. I knew I had to try the Raimi suits, of course. You gotta have the Raimi suits, but the one I love the most is probably the Stark suit. I really like the Stark suit. Unfortunately, the Batman games often limited the best suits to the challenge rooms that were separate from the story, and that was very disappointing to me. The mission structure is pretty straightforward. Anytime you complete main story missions, you'll get another yellow marker elsewhere on the map, but the game also encourages you to go out and fight crime and level some of your abilities while, there's nothing else to do. There isn't much going on. If you want to just tackle the story and rush through one of the best experiences on PlayStation, I guess you can do that. There is a lot more I could say about the gameplay in this game and just what it offers, the value here. There is a new game plus mode, which is very welcome. Some things should be left to mystery so you can experience it for yourself. It's a lot of fun, and you're going to have even more fun than I did if Spider-Man is your favorite comic book character.
Hey, there's my favorite aunt.
Peter, what a nice surprise.
Need some help?
Yeah, sure. Oh, there are some heavy boxes.
No. I mean, not yet. I came to, I just wanted to talk.
I was quite surprised by the story in this game, and not because, there's a ton of surprises, but because the game is really well written. And even if you just have basic knowledge over Spider-Man, you knew exactly what was going to happen next in most of these situations. Of course, we have the ongoing, very loving, but sometimes awkward relationship between Mary Jane and Peter Parker. They're still very much in love here, but early on you discover that they stopped talking for a while, and later it's revealed that she just wanted Peter to stop treating her like a baby. baby. She can handle herself and doesn't always need him breathing down her neck when he feels she may be in danger. As someone on the outside looking in, I kind of see both sides. The whole situation with Peter and Dr. Octavius, again, you know exactly where this is going if you're aware of some of the more basic Spider-Man knowledge, but the relationship between he and Peter is arguably the best thing about the story.
Yes.
You see all this new technology in development, tons of new research being done, and Octavius is breaking down both mentally and emotionally. It's a recipe for disaster, but ultimately leads to some of the best parts of the game. And then we get to the Martin Lee segments, which more or less sets the tone for the entire game. And I loved how they tied Norman Osborn, or they tied Octavius into his storyline, and a lot of them have branches. So in other words, there's always going to be something else going on. And just when you think, you figured it all out and there couldn't be more to this than what you see on the surface, the writers take you for a ride. It's extremely well done here, and again, not a ton of surprises in terms of actual surprises, but the writing itself. I can't express my excitement for some of the storylines and villains that they're setting up to appear in the sequel, and it's going to be amazing. I just know it. I know it in my heart to be true. Insomniac will come through and possibly deliver the best Sony exclusive of this generation with that sequel. With some of the latest news, I for one am hoping the sequel is PS5 only, please, Insomniac, Sony. That would be preferred, I think, by myself and many others. I want to see that game take full advantage of the PlayStation 5's capabilities. All in all, if I haven't said enough, if I haven't gushed enough and been super positive about most of what I experienced here, this was top-notch game development, plain and simple. I have very few complaints. The side missions are one thing, but that's not enough for me to take away from the fact that most of the other aspects in this game are truly awesome. Insomniac has made me a believer. I was never a big fan. This game changed my mind, and now I'm looking forward to see what they do next after Ratchet & Clank, of course, depending on when you watch this video. I'm going to give Spider-Man PS4 a good solid 9. Not a soft 9, but a solid one. It deserves it. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I do appreciate it more than you know, and there will be more reviews. These reviews take time, but I'm glad to see some of you seem to enjoy them. You guys take care. Have a good one. Peace.